I'ma tell the truth cause I'm a black sheep. I'ma lead all my people about that backseat. Yeah, yeah, yeah. We tell a hater, yeah.
Alright.
Get loose.
Great day, brothers and sisters. My name is Justin with Wisdom Rich.
And my name is Leah.
And today we're going to break down how we started a business that was basically doing, we'll say, $8, $3, $17, $20, stuff like that every day. And when we took it, we were able to modify it. And not only modify it, we put a program to it because we studied a lot about how business and spirituality make a unity in which create big cohesion. So Leah and I were actually seeking a business. We looked on Craigslist. We found this dry cleaners, and it was in a reasonable range of money that me and her could both afford. So when we first got to the store, her and I could already tell that.
Well, first off, you seen it on Craigslist, and we had run businesses before. So he had run a car detailing business by himself. I was kind of running a cookie business by myself, but it wasn't something that we had seen to be like really, really futuristic for us. So we wanted something that was more like brick and mortar.
Right. So when we walked into the business, everything was there. It was just missing the backbone of, structure and order. So in the beginning of it, Leah was working at Starbucks. I was currently selling cars at that moment. And what we did was she stopped working at Starbucks. She was the full desk clerk at the store. And I would help with the labor. And also I was selling cars in the beginning. But when it got to a point where I didn't have to sell cars because it kept increasing, this is when we really seen the power of how to start a business from nothing to something. So what it is there's small details that go into building anything. The first thing is make sure you're serving whatever you're serving at your highest capacity. Because at that point, you don't really have to worry about, a competitor. If you bump into the store and you come in and Leah goes, hey, how are you? How can I help you? And her energy is charismatic. That's 99% of business. It's how you're treating a person because there's a law of attraction with everything. So it's kind of like when me and her met, or how you and whoever's watching this, how you've met other people in your relationship. There was a good feeling, there was a good treatment which kept you in cohesion with that person. And that's what you want to do with the customer. That's what you want to do with your business. You want to create a good cohesion, which it just naturally, when someone thinks, they drop something on their shirt, they may even smile to say, it doesn't matter, I get to go see that girl at the cleaners or that guy at the cleaners. That's the type of spirituality you want the business to be in. And then from then, you just have to be about your word. You can't promise a person this, promise a person that, promise a person this, and not keep coming through with your promise. So as long as you're charismatic and whatever you're serving, it really is, that's what you're serving, and you're serving that at the highest altitude that you can serve it, you're going to win in business. And
it always has a lot to do with the owners too. Like you said, when you had messaged me and you were like, Leah, I think I found something. You were like, you said a dry cleaners. We didn't know anything about dry cleaning.
At all.
Nothing other than like I knew my grandpa maybe had taken his clothes there when I was little to a dry cleaners. Like I didn't understand anything about it. So I was like, at first naturally I was like, well, I don't know anything, but my attitude and your attitude is like, well, we will figure it out. So even though we were seeking a business, we weren't specific on let's do this, let's do this, let's do this. We were like free with it. So when we pulled up, it was like, wow. We just seen the building and we knew that like we could do it. We could do it. We could figure it out. So originally when we took over, the old owner was getting rid of it. And we just had this attitude, and we were young, so we were 23, and a lot of times I think that kind of goes into it, is being young and having this like, wow, energy about something. I've seen it a lot of times when I run into older people, I'm always like, well, why don't you get into this? And it's like, all these reasons to why not, or why they think that they can't.
And she just hit on a very important detail. If you're going to be an entrepreneur, if you don't possess that childlike charisma, like I have a child, we have a child, his curiosity is wide open. Like if he was down here right now, he would be unplugging things, he'd probably be touching the camera, he'd be messing with the sound of the music. And it's not because he's like this child of bad behavior, he's a child of God behavior. Like God is all-knowing, so he needs to know all things. And that's how you want to be if you're going into entrepreneurship. You need to be willing to know that you do know but you don't know. So that childlike mind has to be there, because there's going to be times where something in that business is just not, the currency's not there. Maybe like, it's a bad day in business, or a certain situation happened in business. So you still have to be a child with everything to be able to take yourself out of certain corners. I feel like as we get older, we get stoned and bricked into this certain way of thinking, and that's where we actually lose the godly image that the world is representing all of us.
Right, and when we got into that business, at first, all of the clothes that were coming in, customers were bringing in, we were taking them and taking them to a plant. So the plant would do all of the work, and we would just go pick them up. So we were basically just collecting clothes and then giving them back to customers. But we were there, what would you say, 2 months, and we're like, this isn't gonna make the bills sending them out, because we had to pay the plant, pay all of our utilities, pay the rent, and the numbers weren't adding up.
Exactly.
So naturally, we could have gotten this round like, oh my gosh, what you said, like, what are we gonna do? This isn't adding up. We shouldn't have got into this. Like, our thoughts could have went there, but they're more or less like, let's figure it out. And I remember for me exactly, it was a customer had come in that I really enjoyed. And I enjoyed his company. And he was like, hey, can you press these pants like right now? So him like putting me on the spot, and me knowing that there was an ironing board and an iron in the back, me knowing I probably don't have this professionalism to even know like the plant knows, it was just my like curiosity towards wanting to help him, to be like, gosh, he needs this now, like I don't have time to bring it down there. Made me go, oh my gosh, it probably took me like 20 minutes to press a pair of pants, where it's like now me doing it for 6 years, probably like 2 minutes.
Right, and that's another thing. Is like her having that courage to do the pair of pants. It gave me then the courage to be like, well, I gotta try something.
And you're like, well, we can do this now.
Yes, and as we started to learn how to do it, the main thing that we saw that we did not have was just a certain solution. And this is where our minds still stayed open, where we actually ended up creating our own solution, just being open-minded, because we smelled the perk. Like when we would take it to the dry cleaner, like the plant that we're using, we smelled the chemical. And then we did some research on the chemical, and we didn't know that dry cleaning really does cause cancer. Like the chemicals in there when you're sweating, say for instance, you have a two-piece, right? And you go to church and you get to stomping, sweating, jamming, the Holy Spirit is there in you. What happens is you start sweating, and as you start sweating, it starts to pull the chemicals off the jacket. So that's how a lot of people are getting cancer. So if you did not know that and you do get dry cleaning, just keep that in the back of your mind, to know that the chemical perk, you can look it up, it's not a kind chemical that I would use.
Go into your dry cleaners and ask them, because I know in the past few years, like a lot of people have turned away from that because they have done the research to see that perk does cause cancer. So go in, ask them, and see if there's an alternative. But there's so many ways you can go about, cleaning your clothes without going to a dry cleaners. And
Right.
that's something that Justin and I are going to get into coming here in the next few weeks.
We're going to give you guys a lot of great tools where if you have a big dry cleaning bill, you're not going to have that anymore after you're done watching some of the secret tips that we're going to give you guys, and some of the solutions that we're going to bring to you guys. But what we have really learned, the secret to building any empire, is you have to have that childlike mind at all times. You can't get into this barbaric way of the system is going to be like this. Me and her, when we were running the system, we could see that in time, storefronts would not be the way. It was just something that we both felt. So where we feel that the world is going to is we're in the information age. So as long as you can give somebody what you know, and then they can capitalize off of what you know, the new storefront is really what you know. So if you know something, someone's going to drop by your page, they're going to stop, they're going to get the intellect that you have to give to them, so that they can take that and they can move on. So if I give someone this information, right, and they love it, this person can go start a business and it doesn't affect me at all, because at the end of the day, they still paid attention to me enough to pay for the material that I gave them to then materialize it. So it's like the gift that keeps giving, as I've learned it off of somebody who's maybe showed me, or maybe I went to the plant and I'm paying attention on how they're doing it, and then I'm like, hey Leah, this is how they're pressing it, this is what they're using. So it's like everybody is really hijacking information off each other. So all the information I give you, the next man who really built the business can give you the same information, because it's all the same. Like the universal law is a blueprint that she can use, I can use. Like for example, we have a plant, we both have a plant, right? If I take the plant and I put it in the environment that the label says, this description says, a little bit of sun, this type of soil, watered this many times, right? That's the same thing that you do with a business. So it's like, you want a lot of money, okay? So then you have to give a lot of service. So the more service you give, the more consciously you have to be aware of what you're doing, because it's simplicity that makes a lot of money. It's not this deep thought, like the red box, for example. That's simplicity. I'm going to put a box outside. It's going to be connected to a Wi-Fi. It's going to be connected to all the Visa, MasterCard, and all that. And then it's going to plug into the wall. And when you come in, I'm able to take all your information as you would walk into a movie theater. See, that was simplicity.
So it's like, for example, what you're talking about too is when we took over the cleaners, like I said, it was that one moment of me doing his pants.
Right.
So we were just ironing pants. Then it was like, okay, well, we kind of have an idea on how to iron. We looked up other people's content. We would go on YouTube, kind of look up other videos if we could find any. That was really rare at the time, was for us to find videos of other people pressing. And then, like you said, we would go to the plant, kind of get an idea of what they were doing down there. I know it's really bitter. And then once we got a hold of the cleaning, which I would say we were really confident after about a year of cleaning clothes and pressing them, then it evolved into people would come in and they had faith in us because they could see that we knew what we were doing, we were confident. And if, like I always said in the last video, if we didn't, we would say, okay, hey, you're not going to pay up front. Let me try because this shit is fucked up. And, like, you're not going to be able to do anything with it.
Right.
Like, you're just going to end up throwing it out. So let me at least try. And if I can't, hey, I'll just give it back to you and you don't have to pay. But it was like, I wanted to see how far, if it would work, if it would come out. So then it was like...
The childlike mind.
People would come with, like, boots. People would come with book bags. So we always kept trying. So then it's like, you can add on another service. People would come with carpets from their cars. And then it's like, we added on carpets because our curiosity was always just open. So then it naturally expanded our business.
Right, and then it got to a point where me and her's biggest issue with running that type of business, because it is a labor-driven business, is finding quality workers. Like in most cases, when you look at a dry cleaning company, it's usually not ran by full-blown Americans. There's usually like a family that comes over from overseas, and they usually intel this business. And sometimes, in most cases, them people over there have a different work ethic than Americans. So their loyalty to working inside of a household and being with family is different. So that's why, if you ever look, why do people always come over from different countries to America and their businesses go all the way like that? Well, they have that unity because they really come from an area where they've never had nothing.
I always think that's amazing too.
Yeah,
it's like you don't even speak this language barely, and you're over here.
Yes.
Like so fast.
They're hungry and they're curious. They're open to know that even though I don't know the language 100%, I'm confident enough to go up to the front and something will magnify my doing for me to get what I need to get off the situation.
It's the trying and not being shamed if you fail.
Yeah, like a lot of us, we have these voices in our heads like, what are we going to look like? Or all this. First and foremost, nothing looks good when you're beginning. Nothing. I don't care what it is. If you don't know how to lift weights, and one day you go lift weights, and you're lifting with your trainer, and your trainer always lifts weights, when he lifts to show you the example, then you try it, you're nowhere near where he is. But the gold about this is if you love where he's at, and you love the process of somebody you idol, it's the process that is actually fun about something. It's actually not the obtainment of it. Most of us think that, like, when we get this, okay, then when you get it, there's no fun. It's like in every game, the funness of the game is playing the game. It's not fun when you win. Like as you win, you're like, what can I do that's a little more complicated? It's like the winning isn't the fun part. So that's another key to building a business, is enjoying the process. Like me and her enjoyed the fact that when COVID hit, we wake up that morning, the best dry cleaners in Virginia Beach. Mind you, we've only ran the business for about 6 years. So in 6 years of us coming to an unknown environment and us just helping each other and focusing on the main goal, which was cleaning people's clothes and getting them back in an orderly fashion, we were able to see that if we did it with dry cleaning, and like, don't get it wrong, we did not love dry cleaning, but we loved that the dry cleaning kept us afloat.
In serving people.
And serving the people, yeah. I didn't love the labor of like pressing clothes and doing none of that. I love the fact that somebody could come and I could get their clothes back in an hour and a half. Like, I loved that. So then if you go and you look at our reviews, people are just talking all this good information about us because we were able to do something that they called and they kept calling other cleaners, and they kept saying no, 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 no. And then they call us, and we're like, yeah, we can do that. That's another thing. When you're in business, you want to always say yes. Like, that's the key. Say yes. Even if you don't know. If you're the owner of something, and we'll say you're not familiar with whatever someone's asking, like she said, do you guys know how to clean leather? No, we don't. But if you give it to me, I can figure it out, and we can take it from there. I mean, what can you lose and what can I lose? If I figure out that I can't do it, I'm just going to give it back. And if I figure out that I can do it, not only did you win, I learned.
And honesty, like you said.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, there'd been times where I thought I could do something, and it would sit, and I'd be like, I don't know how I'm going to do this.
Right.
And I would just call them back and be like, hey, I tried this, I tried that, I thought of this. It's just not going to work out.
Right.
And they're like, thank you, I appreciate you being honest. Most of the times it's just honesty. People love the honesty.
Correct.
They love it.
Correct.
And a lot of times I see in business, especially corporations, it's this inhonesty. So I've walked into so many places sometimes, and I'll be like, hey, can you fix this? Can you fix this? And they're like, it's not like that. I'm like, I'm looking straight at it, and it is like that. Or, well, you didn't ask for that. And I'm clearly like, I did ask for that. People try to convince you that, you know, you didn't say what you said, or you didn't ask what you asked for. So if you're honest to have that communication with you and your customer, you're definitely going to win in business, and you're definitely going to be a strong business owner.
And that's a very strong factor. You have to be able to take on the good and the bad in business. Like, a lot of people, when you look at them, they will make a mistake, and it's clear that it's a mistake, but they are so insecure within themselves, they can't even accept that they made a mistake to grow off of the mistake. So, like, I've always told myself this: I've won a lot, but I've lost a lot more. But the losing is what gave me the wisdom. Like, anything I've ever won, the only thing you learn when you win is, you know, the clap. It's the ego side. But when you lose, it's the sit back, what did I do, reflect side. And that side is you're able to go to both sides. That's going to keep you growing. That's what keeps us growing. It's the yin and the yang. You can't always have a touchdown. So if you're in business and you just want to score, like, how much money can we make? You're going to make a bad name because you're going to do things that aren't spiritually just. And when you start to get down that path, you actually start to lose yourself at a certain amount, and you get greedy. So when you're looking at what she said,
the quality goes down.
Yeah, the quality goes down. You start to lie more. Your reviews look terrible. So it's like also knowing how far you can take this business. Like, me and her doing it hands-on, we could only get it to about $200,000. If we would have pushed it any further,
quality would have gone down.
The quality would have went down, and you would have seen bad reviews. So,
and we tried it with other employees, you know. And I see, as business owners, you're usually like the one that's like so passionate about it that you really have to get a really, really good team aboard to have that same passion that you have. Or unless the quality normally does go down when the business owners step away, because your team has to have that exact same love that you have for it, or your quality does go down a little bit.
Exactly. So I would say always find a team member or team members who are just as, you know, open and kindred about the idea that you are, because that's 99% of our success. And also, when you're looking at masculine and feminine energy in business, that's a key. So if you're in a relationship and you guys aren't currently doing something together, you'd be surprised to see that in most cases, men are like, they bring the ideas, but women bring the order. It's like bringing a child. Like, a man brings the substance, she rekindles the substance and brings it back a full body. So it's like, I would go close deals, she would send emails to the people that I would go find. And it's like, she's not more of the hunting nature. I like to hunt. So that's where you use the masculine, feminine energy. So I would go to the ocean front and I would run into certain hotels that most people would think you're goofy. And I would actually get good responses, or they would call, or we would get contracts with me doing this, because my mind being open, not thinking anything of anything other than that would be an awesome opportunity. And me walking in there and them people feeling that energy, it makes them curious as I'm curious. So that's the thing that I tell you, keep your mind open like a child, because that curious child is grabbing everybody in the grocery store. And you want your aura and your energy to be like that when you walk in and you're doing things in business. So if you're open and you're honest, you're always going to keep that innocence that naturally people attract to. Like, me and her have always had success because we naturally know I'm treating you Right now, as I'm talking to you, I'm treating you like I'm treating myself. I'm treating like I'm treating her, like I'm treating my kid. So anything that I'm giving you, it's profound because I found it. So I'm a professional in my foundation to be able to talk about it because it's been profound. And a lot of people who are teaching in today's time, they're teaching you this conscious way, and that is the way. Like, awareness is the way, but awareness with doing is what gives you the way. It's not just, I read a book, I have awareness. It's like, now the pieces of that book, let me apply them, and then I'll be profound, and then I can give the awareness, because everything that me and her have acquired has been off of the universal law, you know, the idea, the positivity, to go through, you know, the negative that comes with the positive, because yin and yang. So anytime you have a good idea, there's going to be bad force. And you have to accept that that is just life. So you plant a seed in a garden, there's going to be animals that come to try to eat your fruit. There's always going to be something against the something, and that's the secret of all things, is knowing how to stay still and being able to balance both sides of the something. So COVID came, and her and I just took it amongst ourselves to say, you know what? The stock went basically 95% down. You know, everybody's in the office, they're being sent home. So me and her were at the point where we
churches, events, people weren't going to hotels. We had a lot of hotel contracts, as well as we had other cleaners too that we were doing work for, and
Right.
their stock was down. What did you say? Security companies, because a lot of them weren't.
Events. People weren't going to events. So we had to make the good decision to say, and what it led us to, well, hey, all we have to do now is just bottle up the chemistry that we learned, and then take all the contacts that we've built through person-to-person sales and email them, send them a video of exactly what they're buying off of us. Let's just enlighten our crowd on how to do it themselves, because a lot of people really didn't have the money for the service. Dry cleaning is an expensive service if you don't have that type of money. So we figured if we take this business that we really have been profound at, like, we seen the idea, we went against the idea, we battled the idea.
We were like everybody
conquered.
else. We didn't know anything about ironing clothes. We didn't know anything about cleaning clothes. We just did it. So that's why we're so like, if we could do it, you can do it.
Yes.
And like I said, if you don't want to do it, but maybe you're spending too much on dry cleaning or somebody doing your clothes, hire a kid, hire a neighbor, hire your kid to do it and be like, hey, I'll give you $2 to iron these pants, but you have to watch this video, you've got to know what you're doing, and do it a great job.
Exactly. Because at the end of the day, we're coming into this new globe of show and tell. Show and tell. That's why there's so many podcasts. That's why there's so many YouTube tutorials. Everything is going into the world of show and tell. And I feel like a lot of my world has been so fast that I've not been able to actually slow down and take all of what I've been able to modify in my mind and put it in books and put it in videos and put it in audios and give it back to the people. Yeah, because I didn't do all this to say, yeah, I'm Justin Dunlap, the guy who can figure out anything, and I have his master keys of vision, and I'm just this person. I really did it because I understand that I have a family, I have a child, and all this digital outlook is some way that my family and my kid can look at me and study me, and while studying them, they're just really studying themselves, they're finding themselves. So everybody who's watching, you have the power to do whatever you want. It just goes like to what I told you. Just know that when you plant a seed, there are going to be animals that try to come eat that, and that's just the force that comes with the universe. Like, this is law. This isn't Justin just talking. This is, try it. Go plant a seed that involves fruits, and certain animals around that area eat that fruit, and you don't put a fence around it. You're going to see that they robbed you. So it's the same thing. You have to have a barrier of knowing, all knowing around your mind when you have an idea around people who don't think like that, because they're always going to try to pull your fence down. So to be able to get to this level of life, to be able to see your strong frequency, you have to be able to get around people who are ready to also exercise their strong frequency. So if I'm like, Leah, I had this idea, and she's like, well, that scares me, it's not going to get me to the end goal. I have to be with somebody that's like, yeah, let's go. And that's what she did with her business. Like, she was able to get a tea business, and I'm like, tea? I don't know nothing about tea. But because her energy is like, yeah, let's go, let's go. And that's what kind of, she created her own momentum in her world of what she thought. So then time went on, and she ended up building a very successful online tea company. So it's all in the energy of being open like a child. Be honest. Stay open like I just told you. Be curious about how you can get better at being better to give to the next person. And if you keep that ingredient and you go about that every day like it's your schooling, I can assure you that you'll get to a beautiful road, and just give it a thumbs up on this video.
You'll have a peace of mind. So
yes.
like I said, I mean, 6 years in the cleaning business, and it's like, we're going to start doing these videos now on how to teach everybody how to clean and press their own clothes. But I never once thought in my mind, like, wow, I can't do that because so-and-so, I messed up so many times on their order, I robbed this many people that I couldn't do that. You know,
right.
like I didn't block myself to be like, oh, forget that customer, I'm just going to close early even though I knew that their order was due, because now that's where that karma is going to come back. So as I'm trying to put these videos out, these people are going to flame me.
Exactly. So that's another thing, like she just said, it's your character is your, I mean, that's what you're known for. It's not about how much money you have or how good you look. It's really how you treat people. And
not your title, not your color, not your age.
It's none of that. Because I've met racist black people in the business, racist white people, racist Indian people, however you want to label them. All I felt was just a discomfort in themselves. Like, when a person's throwing you feud, you have to remember they're throwing it, meaning they possess this emotion. That doesn't mean that you necessarily have to catch what they're throwing. Like, I walk places and people try to like grill me, and I'm like, in the back of my mind, come on, like,
you
really?
always know that it's something that they're going through. We always got it on Saturdays. Saturdays we closed 3 hours earlier than the weekdays. So I would always know Saturdays is like when people are with their families and stuff like that. So people would come in and be like, hey, I need this tomorrow on Saturday. And I'm like, okay, this is the time it's ready. But it took me a little bit to see that people would forget on Saturdays. So instead of having them call me at 5 o'clock or come in Monday and be like, I just knew when to tell them, and if it was getting late, I would call them, I would leave a voicemail, and then it's on their own accord.
Right, so they can't come in Monday and try to yell at you like, hey, I came and you were closed. It's like, yeah, I left you a voicemail and a text message.
But that came in me studying my environment, studying the people I was dealing with. A lot of times people would call me and be like, hey, can you do this with like a bad attitude? And naturally, because they had a bad attitude, I could be like, forget this, I'm not doing this.
Right.
But I could just tell that they were under a heat of whatever they were going through. So a lot of times, you know, maybe somebody had somebody passed and they were trying to figure out flights, they were trying to figure out this. So all of what's going on in their head. So if I could be the peace of mind to them, to at least give them their clothes in a timely, according manner, oh my gosh. How many times I heard people be like, you saved my life?
Exactly.
With just cleaning and ironing their clothes. I mean, I wasn't getting that in the other fields I was in.
Right.
So that was like, wow, to serve people, you have to take the good and the bad. So a lot of times I would get so many bad encounters, but there's so many good encounters that come with that.
Right. So, but like she said, it's just having compassion. Like, everyone's fighting their own war, believe it or not. It's like, and it's not a war that they wanted to fight. It's like, we unconsciously, subconsciously have been dealt our mom and dad's hand, and they've been dealt their mom and dad's hand, and they've been dealt their mom and dad's hand. So the goal is to try to get the deck all aces. Like, we're trying to make ourselves complete ace.
And that quote is a lot easier to say than it is to do. That's what I personally
no, because the working of getting all that energy out of you is sitting still and then moving. Sitting still and then moving. See, a lot of us are just sitting still. We're not moving on them ideas. And them ideas are, then we're going to get the rust off of our brain.
Like, we've talked about doing these videos for so long, but like I said with the cleaners, we were too busy. So it was like, okay, we thought maybe we would do something even for like your music video or something. We'd be like, okay, we have this music video. And then somebody would call and be like, hey, I have 250 tablecloths for a wedding that I need done tomorrow. Can you do it? And then you have to wager what's more important, and you know, a lot of times when you are to a strict schedule of a business, that does come first.
Yes.
Other than like your side jobs or your personal events. How many times have we not gone to certain things people have invited us to because, you know, we had this commitment and we had a responsibility that we decided to fulfill.
Yes.
So when people maybe would get upset or not understand why we couldn't come to things, it really just came down to ourselves and our responsibility. And people will take that the hard way, but I think in the long run, people do have compassion, and if they're willing to get over that, they will get over that.
Yeah, so in life, you really have to master first that you are the business. And when I say you are the business, it's your business to be spiritually fit. It's your business to be physically fit. It's your business to be financially fit. It's your business to be sexually fit. Like, it ain't your mom's business. It ain't your dad's business. It ain't your grandma's business. It ain't your boyfriend's business. It ain't your girlfriend's business. It ain't your auntie's business. It ain't Trump's business. It's your business to be physically, spiritually, all them ways of being fit. So when you go about wanting to obtain something, you have to go and you have to be focused like a Navy SEAL. Or you're 9 times out of 10 not going to get the fulfillment that you want out of that something. So when you start to try to get your focus, guess what? Your friends want to invite you out, you know. Girlfriend's mad at you because you've been spending too many hours in the studio. Boyfriend's mad at you because you've been whipping up teas too long. Like, you have to understand that girlfriend and boyfriend aren't the you that you're seeking to be fit with. Like, they can be fit with you, but they're not going to be fit for you if they're not going to allow you to first get fit for you. You see what I'm saying? So a lot of people are in love, but they have not even understand how fit they are for themselves yet. Like, they don't know who they are. They're just, I love you, baby.
And I think if you are building with someone that is your partner or somebody that's close to you, a family member or something like that, it is, everybody always gets the negative. I'm going to give the good. It's a push of motivation.
It's a push, yes.
So if you're like, hey Leah, why did you get that order done? I know it's not due for a week, but like, you're just sitting there.
You're doing
you need
nothing.
to get that done.
Mm-hmm.
So it does help. It's a push of motivation. So it's the same with you. You know, I'd be like,
and you have to understand the difference between a push of motivation or they're being hard on me, because in this entrepreneurship world, sensitivity has to be directed with empathy. Like, you have to be sensitive and empathetic towards the people that you're serving, but you have to kind of be insensitive to the pain and the struggle and the war that it brings, because you're trying to create a cosmos within your mind that's going to bring you currency and generations of you currency. This isn't going to be easy if you've not had that to study in your bloodline. Most people are entrepreneurs because they seek freedom. And if you seek freedom, you got to understand 98% of people do not have freedom. So if you're going against this type of currency, it's not going to be easy, but it is possible if you focus and you allow yourself to feel and know that your brain is open, you're focused, and you're positive. You're going to bump into the right things, and it's never always going to go how you expect it to go. Like, I didn't expect COVID to come and one of my main money makers be something I have to say, you know what, it's time to walk away. Like, me not knowing this world would be in the time that it in. Like, I knew this time would come, but I didn't think that it would come how it came. But me now facing this energy, I'm still an entrepreneur, so that doesn't mean that I failed. It just means, okay,
shift.
Exactly. So let me now, instead of make money off of these people, let me give them a class and let them be able to pay me to make them solitude. So you could either be solitude by cleaning your own clothes with what I give you, or you can have solitude off of taking the ideas that I give you and you making your own money with it. But that's the new world that I'm in. It's not holding the jewels that I possess and not giving them to people. It's now like, okay, I'm going to be doing videos on how to produce music, how to mix music, how to master music, how to create music. And I'm just basically going to show you how I do it, because this is something I've done so long that I've become profound at it. So, like I said, every professional, profound, when you're professional and you found something, your goal is to give back, because when you're pro, that means you're God, you're productive, you're giving to the life. So that's what you have to do as you become a professional. You have to then teach the kids how you got whatever skill that you got. That's just how I look at it. That's how I look at life, as raising a child, as being in a relationship. Whatever you're good at, you should bring that good into the room. And if you're not, you're cheating yourself and whoever's in that room. That's just how I feel. I can't be good at something and watch you be not so good at it and let you struggle at it, but I know that I'm good at it. I would just say, hey, if you don't mind, let me do that, because I'm good at that. And that's how I feel like we can all be.
We were under like a time crunch and we would be working together. By the time 6 years came, you knew how to press all of the garments. I knew how to press all of the garments. But we specifically would have like, I'm better at pants, you're better at business shirts, because that's kind of what we trained ourselves off of.
We started like
so
that.
when we were under a time thing, it was not like, hey, you're not bad at pants, but like, I'm way faster than you are.
She put the time in on the pants, I put the time in on the shirt.
Business
right,
shirt, so we would just be like, hey, it is what it is.
We would use each other's strengths, and that's the secret to success. Your mastermind group should have somebody in it that does something so good that you wouldn't even bother trying because you would look stupid in front of that person.
You have to know all positions
Yes.
too, especially as the owner. You should know all ends of your business completely.
Yes.
You should not be making any employee or anybody do anything that you don't know how to do or you wouldn't do yourself.
Correct. No. Because if you love the business for what the business is, you would learn it all. You wouldn't just say, I put my money up. Like, that sounds like capitalism. That's why America is in a COVID state. Because some guy put his money up for all these Little Caesars, and all the people who work at Little Caesars aren't actually doing the right job at Little Caesars. Not saying Little Caesars is not doing the right job. Little Caesars as an example. Because at the end of the day, that's what happens. When you don't have the strength running its power that it created, the strength kind of weakens. And it's no different than, second string quarterback. That's what you're doing when you run a business and you give it up. You're giving it to the second string quarterback. And most people, the game's over when the second string quarterback is in. It's the same in business. If the first string quarterback's not going to look at the second string quarterback kind of often to make sure, he's running the offense, he's making all the steps, he's aligning everything the way the players align because, he was the first string quarterback, so he knows how everything works. So if he does not sit there and watch over the second string quarterback, the second string quarterback is then naturally going to have to take a few steps back to gain something that the first string quarterback has. So when a business owner just has his money up and he disappears, in most cases the business disappears as well because there's no backbone there. There's nothing that's allowing the huddle. Like there's no cohesion when the first string quarterback's not in the game. That's just how life works.
To have respect.
Yeah, so like with her, I know how to run a lot of her tea company, but if her being the first string quarterback doesn't look over something before I send it out, I might be messing up something. I might have a root that's mixed with this root that ain't supposed to mix with that root on that run. But that's where the first string quarterback, if you love what you do, you always stay around, ride around on the wagon, peep out the huddle, stay in the sideline. But you'll watch your game if you love what you're actually building. And if that's a bad sign when the owner is never around, that means he doesn't like what he actually has built. And that's just how I look at it because it's deeper than having a bunch of something that runs off the sweat and tears of the next man. Like, people want to get close to that spiritual presence of who's this business, why is this business, what made this business. Like, we all want to know what our money is going to today because the world has really showed us that a lot of things aren't so promising. So we want to know who really is doing things the right way now. Like, people don't
want to... For instance, these mugs, these Forest Growth mugs we now have, we got them off of a friend that just started a business. I'm not sure the exact website, so we're going to link it below. But easily, you could go to somebody more corporate like Walgreens or Walmart. But oh my gosh, they're going to do the same exact job, honestly. I've never gotten even mugs from Walgreens, but I'd imagine it's like the same exact thing. These are great and phenomenal. So it's like, you have to, if you want this old system to kind of go away or perfect maybe the flaws you see, you have to really be the change. You have to go and maybe spend a few more dollars to go support a different type of business.
Yes.
It's really in our hands
yes.
as the consumers and as the ones designing your own way.
Correct. So the more that we support the thriving families, families thrive. And we have that. A lot of people forget that the people have the economic power. The power is not in the people who sit up at the top. They're sitting at the top because the people at the bottom are buying them up to the top. So now if we stop doing that and we level out the playing field and we just buy into who's really good at what they do, who's focused at what they do, you'll see that 9 times out of 10 it's not people at the top. Because the world is going like this. A lot of the new managers and all these people, they're figuring out that they're the manager and they're the owner of themselves. So a lot of these corporates are actually losing hands because a lot of people are looking for that DIY, how can I do it myself? Because they've been let down by the corporate. So now we have to be corporate within ourselves because we have always been corporate. Like, people have always been the business. We've always been the business.
It's accepting it.
It's accepting
that you
exactly.
Have the strength to do
You're
it.
the business.
You have the
You're the shit.
to do it.
You got the faith. You can do whatever you want. And it doesn't matter if you start from, the bottom and you slowly build your Legos. Like every kid, he don't just come with the box of Legos and have a skyscraper. He goes, throws them, he does whatever he does. But in time, he built a skyscraper. So you got to go through your own growing pains and get all your insecurities out of you to make it seem what it needs to seem, because if you don't, you're just always going to put this makeup aura on over yourself, and you're never going to have this happiness. So how me and her have built the business that made over $200,000 is we stripped ourselves of all this thinking, being, all this goofy substance, and we just stayed present, and we did what we can do to be present. And through being present and staying present, we were gifted a currency. And that's what currency is you being present, to gift your present, and then the current gets to picking up what you do, and then it's called a currency. So to create a currency, you have to be present, find your presence, in your presence, gift that, and then the current sees whatever you foresee. So really, you're giving the world what you see for yourself, and if you feel very strong about what you're giving the world, the currency comes stronger to you. And that's just the secret to no secrets. It's just the law that we've learned. So in time, you're going to see us doing a lot of how-to videos and videos that give you more wisdom and how to engage your brain to think more in this nature, but to be aware of all nature. But if you're looking for certain things, you have to channel into certain things. Like,
I remember, it's not this specific camera, but it's our Rebel camera. We actually specifically got our first camera to take pictures of clothes to then start to build a website. And it's like, I wasn't satisfied with any website offers I was giving, so then I had to figure it out. So it's just this evolving process to now be like, okay, hey, we didn't expect the cleaners to get the outcome it did with the storefronts, so we were like, okay, hold up a second. Let's drop these storefronts, let's switch over here, but everything that we taught ourselves from the cleaners still, with the videos, the pictures, the websites, all of that now, we can put towards Wisdom Rich Entertainment.
correct.
So we were using it though still when we were doing the cleaners, because you were
And we were using it unconsciously. We didn't even know we were using half the talents that we acquired off of having to run a business, build a website, put stickers on the website or the window, build flyers, print business cards, print on shirts. We were doing all this to see that, whoa, we actually have a lot to offer. So a lot of the times you need to be around people who see the gold in you. That's key number one. You can be very good at something, but be around very, very, very negative people, and you won't get the greatness out of your goodness because you're around badness. And that's the science of failure. You want to be around people that can pick up your it, whatever it is. And don't get it twisted. We all have what it ain't, but we're not focused on what it ain't. We're focused on what it is.
Like with you, when you had decided to produce yourself and make own beats, I for so long was like, okay, what beats are you gonna get on? And you never had this love feel towards any ones you were really hearing, and it'd been like 4 years. You know, you did an album, you were satisfied with it, but I think you wanted more for yourself out of the sound. So for you to want more, instead of going and being like, oh, I don't really like this that you have to offer, I like this but change this, you're like, I'm going to be in full control of it, and this is what it is that I want, so I need to learn how to start producing my own beats. So, you know, back to the same progression.
Right.
You gotta go watch videos, you gotta go ask questions, you gotta look at this, look at that,
Childlike mind.
try.
I had to keep the mind open. And what forced me into actually making my own beats is I was at a studio session, and in the middle of the studio session, I got raided by the police. Like, the whole studio. They threw like smoke bombs in there, sound bombs. It was a moment. And I told myself, if I'm going to carry this with me and I'm still going to be able to do this, I have to be in full control, because it just showed me that being around people and expecting on people to make something happen, it's not a guarantee. And you don't know what people have going in their lives. And it just showed me more self. Like, if you want this, you're going to have to do this yourself. Like, you're not going to be able to always bother the next man, be at the next man's studio, and because you're not from a certain environment. Like, that's what also opened me up to a lot of successes, being out of my element.
Not having this expectation that to depend on other people.
And when you lose the expectation, you have nothing but growth to do. So
hey, I know this person, maybe this person could get me in, or maybe I could stay with this person for the time being. It's all this stuff. Sometimes we use other people to depend on them, and I've been a victim of that.
We all are a victim of it, and it gets to being dependent on a person is like being dependent on drugs in a sense.
Right.
Because when that drug doesn't give you the high that you want, then all of a sudden you're yelling at the person who gave you it, versus seeing that maybe you should just be high off of natural being. Like, you should be high off of your own life. You shouldn't be waiting to come over to my house for me to do something for you to get a high off of my doing. You should find maybe more security in yourself to stop giving people that much control and security over you, because it goes back into one of the videos my man Solace has released. He said, if you love yourself 40%, that means you're giving the world 60% control over you. And I believe that. So if I love Leah in a form of fashion where she has to cook for me, like, I just love her so much, like, but my cooking, like, 80% of my insecurity is there now because I just gave her 20% over my meal. So if Leah doesn't cook for me, you're not cooking for me. Like, I start to get moody and attitude. And at that point, it shows that I gave Leah 20% control over how I feed myself, like a little child would. Like, mommy, what are we eating? And that's what we do as adults. We should be less dependent and expectant on the outside world, and we should be more independent, and meaning we have already seen that we're the source of our own nature. So whatever we need, whatever we want, we are responsible, not mom, not dad, not brother, not sister, not girlfriend, not wife, not husband. You can't be like that, because at that point, you're controlling your life outside of your life, which is impossible. So naturally, you're just angry, you're mad, you're bitter, you don't like people, you think everything is impossible because you've given all the possibleness away. You keep downloading out there. So it's like...
I'm going to give an example.
Break it down,
my example is this. When you are employed, like when I was working at Starbucks and then there would be like confrontation, you automatically like can kind of deal with it, but then if it starts to get heated, it's like, okay, this goes to the shift manager. Like, it's no longer in your hands, it goes to the shift manager. And then, okay, if the shift manager can't handle it, it's like, okay, cool, now let's go get the manager. And then it's like the manager, then you go to the like district manager. So what I had seen with myself was, I'm like naturally a people person, and I'm naturally peaceful, and you're better with confrontation than I am. So I had thought, right? So naturally when customers would come in and there would be this like confrontation, it's like naturally I always wanted to like throw it to you at the beginning, because I'm like, Justin, this person's not satisfied. But because I'm like, okay, this is my business, I have to be accountable for this. So I had to work through that to be like, oh crap, this is kind of uncomfortable. I don't know how to handle this, but in my sticking to know, then I found that.
Exactly.
So then people are like, oh, what I thought was confrontation ended up not and being confrontation, because it's like then you have control over the situation to be able to bring the peaceful.
By her standing in that inertia, in that field of discomfort, the universe then grants you more. See, we're given as we're gaining within. So the more that I can be still and more peaceful, more balanced, the more the world can show to me. So a lot of people don't understand, if you want quick, fast money, all that does is it opens up your insecurities. So if you didn't, so for example, if me and her were scamming and we didn't do the business the correct way and we made $200,000 not cleaning people's clothes and just pressing them and giving them back, just being fluke, what happens is we naturally will have this dark field over us because we feel like we were robbing people, but we created that. So a lot of people...
When we would go to the grocery stores and stuff, I mean, eventually our clientele was so big, you would start to see customers and stuff, and I would just imagine of like, wow, what if I wasn't doing great business?
They would see you.
I'm going to feel like that.
They would call you
out. That's
what
made me want to strive for like more greatness and more appreciation and dealing with people more, because it's like, wow, the love connection of like seeing people out to be like, hey, is so much more better than like literally having to run in like shade and hide yourself.
Right. So you control, your haze. And you also control your sunlight, and you have to remember this all off of your consciousness. How you think of other people or how you think about doing a certain thing is going to reflect in that certain thing. So, like, the major keys that I'm giving my audience right now, and please give us a thumbs up and subscribe if you like what you're watching, because that's what helps our channel, and as you help our channel, we keep helping the page. So, the main thing that I've learned is when you feel this feeling, and you love that feeling that you're feeling when you're serving, 9 times out of 10 that person is receiving that service is going to pick up that same feeling. And that's what creates that currency. They currently see that you're into whatever you're doing. That's the currency. So it's like you can drive or you can...
And when people don't see it, don't get frustrated.
Exactly. Everybody's not going to see this. And
there's been times we've gone above and beyond for customers, and you almost bring it to them like, hey, do you see this? Do you see? And it's, I mean, I've gotten some like
Right.
looks.
And that goes
and
back
you can't
into...
get too frustrated on yourself.
Yes,
You can't bring yourself down because they don't have the expectation you have for
Yeah,
it.
because you have to understand in everybody's cosmetic pool, some people get mad at other people's happiness. Like, there are people out there that are out there to dim other people's happiness. Like, there's people right now who go on comments and they comment negative stuff, and they feed off of that. Like, they feed off of battling at the bottom of someone else's comment or post. There's people like that, but you have to know that this is the ring that you're stepping into. Like, for example, Nate Robinson fighting with a YouTuber. You would never in this lifetime think that Nate Robinson being this fit basketball player, that would ever happen to him. But it's the same thing that I'm giving you as an audience. That happens in real life. Like, you can be very good at what you're doing and someone's trying to knock you out of your shoes because they naturally think they're good at what they're doing. Like, someone feels in the bottom of someone else's comments that they're negative enough to get you to stop doing what you're doing. So if you allow that person's comment to become your reality, they won. That's the game that they're playing. They're playing, how can I say something to you to stun your energy so you don't keep going further than me, because the further you go, the more insecure I get because I'm not going nowhere but to your negative comments. So everything has its balance. There's a yin and a yang.
And the thing about a lot of times your kindness will get taken for weakness, so you will have to deal with that more often.
Yeah, you have to have some wit, you have to be ruthless, cunning, caring, and loving. You have to have a warrior's aspect in this entrepreneurial world, because there's going to be people that try to take things from you, and you can't fight them in the street world. You have to fight them with your mind. So in the sense of fighting a person with your mind, you can't be emotional. You just really got to be very witty, see what you saw, say what you saw, mean what you said, and let them take what they just got off of whatever you gave them. But it all has to be out of the due diligence of truth, wisdom, understanding, and whatever you're pinpointing on them is the truth. So in business, you just have to have all the four emotions, and you have to balance them. You have to have yin and yang, and you have to love what you're doing. And if you love what you're doing, you have this emphasis about you. People are going to talk about you, and as they talk about you, other people are going to come try you, and that's just life. That's what this world is. Like I said, you're the idea, the seed. Now the seed's starting to bloom. Here comes the animals trying to eat your fruit. So that you just got to be aware of your environment at all times, and know that as you become a business owner too, you're a bank, because we've been in situations that weren't so healthy. We've been in situations that the average person would probably not be in business after that situation. So you have to understand what you're first getting into, accept that that's what you're getting into, and make sure you love whatever you're getting into. You got to die for what you love in this entrepreneurial world, or 9 times out of 10, you're not going to get it because somebody else is dying for it. And that's just the secret to business.
Going the extra mile,
always go the extra mile, as she said. But them are some of the keys that we've learned in business. So you'll be hearing and seeing a lot more dry cleaning tutorials on how to organically dry clean clothes and how to professionally dry clean and press
garments, bags, everything like that. And then we're also going into what we're doing now, which is knowing how to build websites, making beads, business cards, everything that we took out of that business and just general life as well. And now give it to our audience.
Yep.
So like and subscribe.
Please like and subscribe, because like I said, as you guys do that, it generates our page. As you generate our page, we keep giving you guys great content. But our goal is to see our whole YouTube family grow. We want to see everybody prosper, and we want to see everybody intervene more with themselves to see that you have always been. So if you have any questions too, ask us down below. Yep. If you're wondering about business ideas, or you're in a situation where you're like, I don't know if I should or if I shouldn't, just ask us. Correct. And we're always near our phones, as everybody is in this time, and we'll respond back. Anything we can help anybody with, we will do that. And we hope to see you guys on this next one. Peace and love.
I'ma tell the truth, cause I'm a black sheep. I'ma lead all my people up out that backseat. Yeah, yeah, yeah.